A lot of times we have a tendency of putting jealousy up on a pedestal or almost encouraging jealousy.
Mhm.
What we want to make sure is understanding that it is just an emotion, that it is just one part of it, and making sure that as we do with any other emotion, that we're not using that jealousy as a weapon. Just like I tell my clients, don't use anger as a weapon, right? So we want to listen to that jealousy and then we want to move forward with it in a way that is both kind to yourself and the other people in your life.
Hello, everyone. I am Michelle Melville Kashan. I am the Community and Content Director here at Sexual Health Alliance, and today I'm with Amanda Jepson. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi there.
Amanda is going to be presenting at our annual Sexological Conference in Denver, Colorado, this October 9th through 12th. So, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be sharing at our annual Sexological Conference?
Absolutely. So I'm going to be presenting on cultivating compersion. And for those of you who aren't aware, compersion is the feeling of joy on behalf of your partner's joy. We tend to hear compersion used most often in non-monogamous communities, but I like to underscore that we really, all of us can feel compersion regardless of the relationship structure that we engage in. So I will be talking about how to build compersion, how we can hold space with both compersion and jealousy at the exact same time. And I'll even be delving into the fact that compersion is not necessarily mandatory or required to have a healthy relationship.
Yes. All right. And if you're watching this, stay tuned till the end because we're going to ask Amanda if you had to swap lives with any fictional character for 24 hours, who are you choosing? And what's the first thing you would do? All right. So, Amanda, I think a lot of people watching this might be new to the idea of compersion. So, could you give us like a case example, just a made-up case example of a client who comes in who wants to experience compersion with their partner or partners?
Absolutely. So one of the ones that I actually see a lot is an individual in a relationship where they have opened up to non-monogamy, and there is this expectation that they should just feel happy. So, for example, let's just say I'm working with a mid-20s male, pretty standard for a lot of my clients, who is on the front end experiencing a lot of jealousy at the fact that his girlfriend has had some success on dating apps and is getting dates and getting out there. And while he wants to feel excited and while he really wanted to open up the relationship, he really is burdened with the fact that he's struggling with feeling happiness at how excited she is and how well her dates are going. So that's a pretty standard thing that I'll see really often. And it's not that there is a lack of interest in it, there's just having to work through a lot of the parts of it.
Oh, totally. Because sometimes things sound amazing, like in, like as an idea, and then you start to, act, it happens and you start to feel all these feelings like jealousy and, all of the things that go with that. So, what do you recommend? Like, how does he address the jealousy that he's feeling?
hmm First things first, we have to understand that jealousy is not a bad thing. A lot of times I hear from folks that, like, if you're truly evolved, you'll never feel jealousy, or, like good non-monogamists never feel jealous. That's a whole bunch of hooey. What we have to understand is jealousy is a normal human emotion. So I normalize it for my clients. And then we have to listen to what that jealousy is telling us. So a lot of times I will talk about jealousy being a check engine light or an indicator of either an unmet need or something that we're interested in having. It oftentimes too can be related to fear of loss. So really just getting into what is that jealousy telling us and how might we use that to help the client get what it is they might be needing out of the situation. In addition to that, I'll get into this in my talk, but really it's looking at what are the ingredients of compersion. And when we look at compersion, it's really based on positive empathy and then gratitude. And so for a lot of clients, I'm really working on helping them actually engage in empathy. Because what we've found is empathy is actually a learned skill, but most of us are not actually taught how to have empathy and express empathy. So I do a lot of empathy training in sessions. And I'm also looking at helping the client build gratitude for where they are in life, where their partner is, for their relationship, and for all of the other aspects of their partner's life then.
Yeah. And I think too, for me, I'm in a monogamous relationship, but jealousy isn't always a bad thing, I think. Like sometimes for me, it's a little reminder of how much I actually love my husband. I'm like, like we'll be somewhere and like somebody will hit on him and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like so I don't think it always has to be a bad thing.
No, I do think though in our society, a lot of times we have a tendency of putting jealousy up on a pedestal or almost encouraging jealousy.
Mm,
What we want to make sure is understanding that it is just an emotion, that it is just one part of it, and making sure that as we do with any other emotion, that we're not using that jealousy as a weapon. Just like I tell my clients, don't use anger as a weapon, right? So we want to listen to that jealousy and then we want to move forward with it in a way that is both kind to yourself and the other people in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think I would like to look at this from two different lenses. So, for one, looking at it through a lens for somebody watching who is just wanting to experience compersion with their partner, and then from another lens of a clinician trying to like help their partner or help their clients, sorry, help their clients through, any issues they might be having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is just the individual that's watching it that wants to understand compersion better.
Right. Like
Yeah.
somebody came across this video, they Googled like what is compersion and this video pops up for them and they're like, "Oh, this could be something I'm interested in."
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing really is understanding that sometimes we talk about compersion as though it is the opposite of jealousy. And it really is not the opposite because when we say something like that, it tells us that we can't have both. But really, truly, compersion is about being excited for what the people in our life are getting to do. And again, we tend to pigeonhole it in non monogamy. But for example, if your best friend is telling you about a promotion that they got at work and you're getting excited for this promotion, right? Or your best friend is telling you about this absolutely hot date that they went on and you find yourself getting excited for this awesome experience that they got to have, you're experiencing compersion. And so compersion is one of those things that it can be sexy, right? But it also can just be experiencing joy at the joy or in the excitement of those people that we really care about, whether that is a romantic connection or otherwise. And so compersion is just a positive emotion that tends to help us deal with or build resilience for those times that maybe are a little bit harder. Because if we are able to find those bright spots, the excitement, the joy, it really does help us work through those moments that might be challenging or a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And, I had never heard the term compersion until I started working here at Sexual Health Alliance. So I've actually only thought about it in a sexual context. And so hearing that, that's really cool. And like I've experienced that a lot for a lot of my friends and people in my life that I love. So I love that.
I do like to expand the definition quite a bit because oftentimes in non monogamy, we really are thinking about only those sexy contexts that would apply. But depending on the type of client that we're working with, so for example, if I'm working with a polyamorous client, which this gets into kind of the second part of your question, clinician mindset. If I'm working with a polyamorous client, what their partners are engaging in are oftentimes more than just sex. And so being able to have compersion because your partner finally has somebody that'll go to poetry readings with them, right? And you're so excited for them. That's not your jam, but it's their jam, right? Or really getting to see parts of your partner blossom in their other relationships that are not just sexual. It's really important to understand that compersion applies to more than just that sexy space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about like maybe compersion gone wrong. Like, has there ever been a situation that either you've experienced or, heard from somebody else where like they thought this is what they wanted and they were all for it, and then things went like terribly wrong? Like we talked about jealousy, and that was overcome, but was there ever a time where they couldn't overcome it, or it was just like they thought it would be the solution to something and it wasn't?
So many people will try things that don't work, right? It's just human nature. A lot of us are experiential learners, we might say, that we need to try it to learn that that's not for us. Now, oftentimes that does not mean that non-monogamy as a whole is wrong, right? It just means that that experience in and of itself or that identity may not be right for the individual. So I hear that one all the time. But oftentimes I see jealousy being a bigger thing where we can't resolve it and we can't work on it because sometimes it might be related to either past trauma or things like that getting in the way for an individual. I have a lot of clients that have opened up their relationship and have found that that jealousy piece really is related to a possession aspect of their partner, which is not necessarily unhealthy. In some cases, that can be really worked through well, or even be an exciting part of a relationship, right? But they hadn't really considered having to work through this idea that their partner would be with other people. And really, truly, it gets really challenging. And for individuals that have not been able to have their things or have had their things taken away from them, there's a whole added aspect there. So when I'm working with people who are recovering from childhood trauma, childhood neglect, even sometimes previous emotional abuse within relationships, sometimes that aspect of allowing their partner's freedom, or we might even say sharing their partner, though there's some problematic aspects to that sometimes that will get in the way of that because of that trauma history that they have. And I think really the last thing there is sometimes I will work with people who feel like they're experiencing compersion, but when we really get into it, they don't have a good awareness of their own needs and their own wants, and they really are throttling themselves or minimizing themselves and what they need for the sake of the relationship. And I would say that's the one where I've seen maybe compersion go wrong is people who maybe have been minimizing their own thoughts, feelings, and needs because they're supposed to be happy for their partner. And that doesn't mean that they can't be happy, but it also means that they're not paying attention to those parts of themselves that maybe aren't completely on board.
Yeah. So if somebody comes to you and says, I want to try this, I heard about this. I saw this really cool video on YouTube on Sexual Health Alliance's YouTube channel. And now I'm really interested in this topic. I think I want to try this. Like, what do you think is step one?
Step one is if they are in a relationship, they need to have a conversation with their partner first. I have a lot of people who jump right in.
Yes.
If they are not in a relationship right now, the first step for them would be doing some, again, research. I really want them to do some research and get some information on the topic first. I usually recommend people slow down because the excitement of trying something new might sometimes put people in a situation where they're kind of in over their head and they hadn't really thought through the implications of where they're at.
Yeah, that's great advice. And so for resources, do you have any that you recommend?
There is a really great book on compersion. I believe it's also called Cultivating Compersion. I also would strongly recommend lots of different non-monogamy books. So Polywise and Polysecure by Jessica Fern are really great ones. Ethical Slut is another really good one. For the most part, Multiamory has a really great book and a podcast as well. I think the biggest thing is when we're talking about non-monogamy, there are so many different resources out there. So books are great, podcasts are great, and depending on where you are, there might even be local non-monogamy meetups where you can go and meet folks that are actually doing this. Because oftentimes what we see out there on the social media and the socials is not a really accurate representation. We're only seeing the good parts of non-monogamy, and we want to talk to people who are actually living this life so we can kind of get a full scope idea of what it really looks like.
That is really good advice. So, what is one reason why someone should come listen to your talk at our annual sexological conference?
I love nothing more than to share information. So if you want to come and see me be really excited at getting to info dump, come on out and see it. But I think for the most part, what you should know is I will be looking at evidence-based information. I'll be looking at practical skills to give clients so that they can really work on increasing their compersion. And I'm also going to be giving a lot of information that you can pass on to your clients to normalize the fact that while compersion is great to have, it really isn't necessary. And here are the things that you can do in your relationship to keep it healthy, even if you're not able to really cultivate that compersion.
Oh, that's going to be so interesting.
Thank you.
All right, for anybody who stayed tuned until the end of this video, here we go. If you had to swap lives, Amanda, with any fictional character for 24 hours, who are you choosing and what's the first thing you'd do?
I have been going back and rewatching this show, so I think it's influencing my answer, but I'm gonna have to do the Grumpy Dr. House. I absolutely adore the fact that he's got that problem-solving brain.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so that's who you're going to be, and what are you doing?
I think I'm just gonna have to yell out, "It's never lupus," just for fun, just because it was such a good trope on the show.
I love it. That's great. All right, for anyone who wants to learn from Amanda in person in Denver, Colorado, join us for our 2025 annual sexological conference. It's our 10-year anniversary. It's happening October 9th through 12th in Denver, Colorado. It's going to be so much fun. There's going to be keynote presentations, breakout rooms, amazing after hours events. We're going to have a big masquerade ball. We would love to see you there in person to learn from the best in our field. So thanks for being with us today, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching our video with Amanda Jepson. Do us a favor, share this with someone who might benefit from this information. Your support helps us reach more people with important sexual health information. If you're passionate about this space, we know you'll enjoy these videos, so check them out. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and remember, you are exceptional.